Welcome to the Peak Performance and Peak Satisfaction podcast with Master Executive Coach Sherry Gregoff. Sherry helps business people perform better, get rewarded handsomely, and actually enjoy their work. After having her own career turnaround, she now helps other high-powered business professionals experience the same. Join the movement to work differently.
Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. As overachievers, we tend to default to giving every last ounce of ourselves to our work, thinking it's the only way to be successful or to hang on to our careers. Here's the issue. We can't sustain this, so we burn out or quit, and our business loses a great talent. Today, I invite you to take the long view on your career and start putting in place healthy boundaries for peak performance. No one else will suggest these for you, but you can take the lead and establish them now. Before we jump in, I want to shout out one of my clients who had a win in this area. Here is the quote from her. Sherry helped me see that when I am the leader that answers emergency after-hours calls or responds to requests to review juniors' work product, and my peers do not, I just volunteered to do the heavy lifting of managing their people and to work extra hours without any of the credit. This client felt violated that the split of work with her peers was unfair. When we looked more closely, we noticed that her peers had set firm boundaries on when they would be available by phone after hours and what emails they would respond to. She, with all the right intentions, did not. Instead of this work being recognized and celebrated, or even disregarded as invisible work, instead, she owned the added cost of bearing the risk as the senior-most person involved in after-hour emergencies and any work that juniors touched. It took this hard look at the facts to recognize that a lack of boundaries and an endless positive intent to help the firm and her colleagues was indeed backfiring here. We agreed new boundaries using the template that I will share with you in today's episode. There is a new protocol now for after-hours emergencies, and she no longer takes ownership of responsibilities that others get the credit for. She feels more aligned by letting the natural owners step up. She feels less resentful. Juniors are growing into more ownership themselves. Balance is restored to this ecosystem of a team. Similar victories are shared by all of my clients, and I have experienced it too in my own career turnaround. So let's hop to today's podcast content and get you on your way to experiencing this also. Setting boundaries is up to each of us. While some leaders or colleagues might encourage you to do so, or family members might beg you to do so, it's going to be your call during crunch time. And really, it's only fitting that it has to be us, because only we know what we need and what will recharge us to keep performing at our best. It will require that we make some decisions about what we will do in different scenarios. We are going to start on this together today. Boundaries as a term can make us bristly. It can sound like limitations or punitive in some way, or a way to manipulate someone else. I too tend to balk at the idea of limitations or ultimatums. That's not what we're talking about here today. Here is a more accurate way of looking at it. Think of it like establishing boundaries on your property. A fence may initially seem limiting, but without it, you may not be able to move freely and safely within your yard. It also makes it clear to others what land is yours and what is theirs. This helps everyone operate alongside each other with less opportunity for confusion or squabbles, a neighbor feeling they were cheated or taken advantage of. Another way of looking at boundaries is like the rules in a soccer match. If there is no referee or set expectations as rules, players end up fighting over close calls, fouling more, even to the point of injuries. Everyone feels it's unfair, and no one has much fun in the game or motivation to keep playing. But when the referee is there to enforce the mutually agreed upon rules to play by, players are safe and are set up for success with a fair shot of winning the game. Everyone is happier. Setting boundaries in our work is much the same. Without them, we often feel violated, annoyed, or resentful that someone is crossing an unspoken boundary or expectation that we had. The fix is not only making these boundaries clear, but also removing the option for them being violated. The trick is in the design of your boundaries. This is the key takeaway from today's podcast episode if you retain nothing else. A useful boundary is one that you can choose to never have violated. What these do is train people on how to work with you, what to expect from you, how to best communicate and partner with you so there are no surprises. And just like the property fences or the soccer referee, everyone is aware of the system and feels they can be successful within it. I will offer you 2 compelling reasons why boundaries are actually good for you and for your business, including your colleagues. Number 1, you don't burn out and quit. Instead, your value add becomes sustainable. Number 2, you steward your time and energy as an employee of your company to be consistently allocated to the highest priority, highest ROI activities. So the next time your brain tells you that you're being selfish or high maintenance or committing career suicide by disappointing key stakeholders that can influence your career prospects, remind yourself this is what makes your value add sustainable and meets your duty as a steward of your business's resources in the form of your time. When colleagues balk, think of the school children that complain that the game of soccer has rules. The pros know they are in place so that teams can thrive on the field and have fun in the process. You are a pro, and you don't give in to the fearful whispers inside or the childish protests from others. When they see the impact you make, they will be glad you made decisions ahead of time to keep yourself performing your best. Let's turn to examples to bring this to life and to offer a bit of a menu of what boundaries you might like to set from here. Feel free to adjust these to match what is important to you and how you work best. In fact, for best results, click the first link in the show notes to download my boundary setting checklist and just follow along using my template. It's the latest addition to my leadership playbook, a free resource of my best tools right at your fingertips. And of course, I should say that the idea here isn't to be unreasonable. We aren't setting unreachable expectations for our work where we barely show up or make an effort, yet we are rewarded exceptionally with full flexibility. Like everything in business, there is a trade to be made here. Our business receives value that we add. We receive rewards and certain working conditions. When the trade-off makes sense to both parties, the employment at will continues. With that as our often implicit, but less often referenced construct, let's turn to setting boundaries. In each example, we will start with an area where you may feel violated or that something is unfair or unsatisfactory. Then I will share a high-quality question to answer for yourself that demands a constructive answer. In this process, we will identify what standards you will tolerate moving forward and what actions you will take in each scenario. By the end of this process, for each new boundary, you will be left with an if-then statement that makes it crystal clear what happens next. So again, the template for today, we're going to cover a current challenge in managing your work and career. I'm going to offer you a high-quality question to ask of yourself that demands a constructive answer. Then you have a decision to make on what standard you will tolerate going forward and what actions you will take, and we will wrap it up in an if-then statement that makes that boundary crystal clear. So let's start in our examples in the space of feeling violated on our time. None of us feel that we have enough time in the day or days in the week to do what we need to do and want to do. Enter other colleagues and humans asking for our time or taking it right in front of our eyes. It's easy to feel like your space, even your headspace, has been taken without permission. Without setting boundaries, that's exactly what's happening. We just may not have realized it until now. Example number 1. I'm constantly interrupted by the phone. Here's the question to ask yourself. Who will I pick up the phone for? You're at your desk advancing your top priorities. Now decide who are the key people that you will interrupt your work for to pick up their call. Now go ahead and name your VIPs who have full access to you on demand, and think carefully before you add names to that VIP list. You're a leader? Okay. That needy team member? Don't leap to list their name because you feel it is your duty as their manager to be on call. Sometimes having the space to try to figure things out on their own is the best gift that you can give that team member to develop their own skills and their ability to work independently. Okay, on to our if-then statement. If someone who is not on my list of VIPs calls while I am working on scheduled tasks, I will let them leave a message so that later I can decide when to respond to their request once I've evaluated it against my current priorities. There are some variations to this first example beyond phone calls. Instant messages, chats, texts, email, and even what I call drive-by visits from colleagues hoping for an impromptu meeting. These all fall in the same category. That is, that you are there working on your previously scheduled priorities. Presumably, you're working on items in priority order, and so really would rather not be disturbed. But then your email dings, your messaging system starts flashing, your phone has new texts, and there's someone at your office door looking for time. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to be monitoring these several cues of communication simultaneously and 24 hours a day. So let's add a boundary. Example number 2. I'm spending much of my time responding to messages, emails, and visits from colleagues, all on their time frames. Here's the question to ask yourself. What is the best use of my time in this moment? Given the demands on us, it is imperative that we prioritize and then commit to working our most important priorities. Responding real time to colleagues when they would like to discuss a topic that feels important to them is thwarting your progress on your own top priorities. So what would you like to do to ensure that your time is spent on the most impactful item in any moment? Let's make an if-then statement. If someone wants to reach me during the workday when I am advancing my top priorities, they can wait for my response to their message or book time on my calendar when I am available. If someone has a topic that is urgent, they can contact my assistant, who is the only one who can interrupt me to quickly check if that topic should take precedence over what I'm working on right now and respond with my answer. Or, if I don't have an assistant, they can leave a voicemail with the urgency and topic at hand on my work cell phone that I will check periodically. This boundary, just as an example, does a couple of things. It pumps the brakes on people seeking real-time feedback from you, something so easy to do in an internal chat system. People think twice before engaging an assistant, and also before leaving a voicemail. With this boundary, you are resetting expectations from what might be hangover standards from COVID quarantine, when everyone worked 24/7 and aimed to give real-time responses in lieu of working alongside each other in an office. This isn't so much about saying no to real-time communications as it is training those around you on how best to communicate with you. This helps them value your time and their own to thoughtfully prepare or even self-serve before engaging you with their ideas or questions. Think about the most valuable leaders in your organization. Are they available 24/7 for real-time inquiries? Of course not. Let's move to example number 3. I'm drowning in overhead tasks that are keeping me from impactful, deep strategic work. Here's the question to ask yourself. How will I prioritize deep strategic work in my day? Let's try on this if-then statement. If I have overhead or administrative tasks to be done, I will schedule them after my protected time for deep work on strategic tasks that move our business forward. Now, this presumes that you are scheduling your time and in advance. Our approach here is to be aggressive, to keep first things first in your work. So often I encounter executives who spend more time organizing their email inbox or having skip-level coffee chats than they do setting the direction for their business and team. This is not in service to anyone, even though there is a dopamine hit associated with ticking off a to-do item that doesn't take much brain power, or pleasing the person in the moment who would love one-on-one time with you. And by the way, I have been guilty as charged on this, so there's no shame in our game here. We are just raising the awareness and setting a boundary for a higher standard on our work. Let's turn to workload matters next. Example number 4. I loathe being in back-to-back meetings, and yet that is my everyday at work. Here's the question to ask yourself. Am I willing to break the habit of accepting all meetings sent my way? Complaining about our busy calendars is really just highlighting that we haven't yet actively managed our calendars. Let's try on some if-then statements. If I receive a meeting request for outside my working hours, or that conflicts with a previously held time for deep work or true breaks, I will decline due to conflicts, so they can plan accordingly for me not to be there or to reschedule to when I can attend. If people continually send me meeting requests without checking my availability, I will stop spending the time to respond before the meeting happens. If I receive a meeting request that is not a good use of my time, then I will delegate or decline as not additive to the session. If I receive a meeting request with an unclear objective, I will require an agenda before responding. Now, this may feel like coming down hard on meeting hygiene, and truly you can decide how much to take up that torch. But the core of this boundary is that your time and your well-being will not bear the brunt of a meeting organizer cutting corners. Proactively book time so that you have breaks between meetings for pure rest and also for deep concentration on the most important work. It's a decision that only you can make. Example number 5. I'm constantly dumped on with more work and am being taken advantage of. Ask yourself this question: which asks will I say yes to? Sometimes we think we must say yes to everything that we are asked to do with no limits. We convince ourselves it is the only way to keep our job or to please our leader. We know this leads to dropping balls, missed expectations, and frustration all around, however. So let's get to boundary setting. Here's some if-then statements. If I am asked to take on a new project, I will ask my leader which one of my current responsibilities should be stopped or slowed in order to accommodate this new ask. And I will review my stack rank of priorities to be sure that we are aligned on what is most important to advance and by when. If I am asked to get involved in work outside of my leader's asks, I will evaluate how helpful that might be to me and to the business. And if I am interested, I will ask my leader which one of my current responsibilities should be stopped or slowed in order to accommodate this new ask. An overloaded queue of work is best solved with prioritization. This also requires us to get comfortable with not having finished everything on our desks before closing out each night. The more senior your role and less defined, the more likely you will be to have carryover efforts that last beyond the single day or single week's work. This is not a problem. Example number 6. We don't stick with one priority through completion here. The question to ask yourself: how do I want to let changes in priorities impact me and my work? Let's try on an if-then statement. If our priorities are changed from above within the organization, I will make clear the cost-benefit of doing so, and then I will release the reins after I've said my piece, and will disagree and commit to the new direction. This is an active decision to not lament the fact that the business is being run differently from how you would run it. As a leader, you share your unique view using data and in a way where people can understand your point. But then you let it go to who owns the decision and accept the one that they make. Example number 7, a potential offshoot of number 6. I'm drained from people venting to me. The question to ask yourself: am I here to make people comfortable or to make them better? Let's try on an if-then statement. If someone wants to vent to me or starts to vent to me, I will respond with, I could see how you could feel that way. What can you do next to make things better? If someone persists in wanting to spend time venting, I will end the conversation with, I've got to get back to work. While we're here, this is a healthy boundary to set for yourself too. If you are throwing a pity party or are tempted to vent to colleagues yourself, ask yourself what you can do to make things better until you come up with a solid answer. And if all else fails, decide it's time to get back to work for your own good and that of the business. Let's turn to our time away from work next. Example number 8. The work week is so crazy that I have to catch up at night and on weekends. I'm asked to do more than is possible for a single human during the day. The question to ask yourself: when will my working hours be enough? This highlights that there will always be more that you can do. Always. So it's really a decision point of whether you want to keep working for free during your personal hours or enjoy life during them instead. When we started our careers, we might have had one day's worth of work to tackle, and then when finished, we could close out the day with nothing pending and a clear mind. As an executive, there's just never an empty to-do list. We schedule tasks in our work hours in priority order, and the rest waits, because we trust our judgment in prioritization and we accept there is a finite limit to each day. Let's move to an if-then statement. If I have more to do at the end of the day, then I set my priorities to pick up the next morning and I rest until then. If I am given more work, I still only work X hours in a day. If we figure out how to perform the role of two people by working round the clock, nothing will ever prompt the second look at that decision to reallocate work away from you or to hire. By saying yes to this work, we are sealing our fate to overwork going forward. Example number 9. My work is so important that I can't take care of myself. There's just no opportunity to fit it in. The question to ask yourself: what self-care is non-negotiable that would keep me from performing at my highest level? Like maintaining a car or a professional athlete maintaining their training, we require maintenance. Ego might have us thinking that we are so indispensable to our business that we couldn't possibly schedule that annual physical. The truth is, businesses offer executive physicals to their most important leaders to ensure that they are keeping their health in excellent shape. If you aren't being offered that perk, make sure you are gifting it to yourself. Let's set the if-then statement. If I am due for health appointments, meals, and breaks, then I take them so that I am able to turn back to my work at my best. Example number 10. My work is so demanding that I miss important milestones for my spouse or children. The question to ask yourself, at the end of your life, will you have wished you worked more and skipped that personal event? If the answer is no, it's time to start making these decisions intentionally. Here's your if-then statement. If I have a milestone for a family member, then I shift my work so that I can be present for that event. Notice, there is no asking permission here. So often we ask permission and hand a decision that is truly ours over to someone else. Don't delegate these calls that can fill you with regret. Make them yourself and keep contributing at a high level, and no one of consequence will bat an eye. Example number 11. I don't take time off because it's too painful to catch up when I return. And what's the point? Because even when I'm off, I'm working. The question to ask yourself, what else is important to me in life beyond work? This may feel existential, but I assure you it is a question to be answered. If you value your work above all else, there is a missed opportunity here. We are wired to make a contribution and for growth through learning, but we are also wired for belonging and security and spontaneity and significance. When we aim to meet all of our basic human needs with work, it's like putting all our eggs in one basket or not having a diversified investment portfolio. It's risky. A layoff or retirement can equate to losing our meaning in life. Why have one purpose when we are called to be multidimensional in our impact? Let's do an if-then statement. If I take time off, I delegate to others to cover me, and I turn back to undone work in due time. Back in example number 1, we talked about fielding phone calls during the workday. You may want to set a parallel boundary for calls during off hours. Example number 12. I field phone calls outside my time zone's working hours, and it's infringing on my personal life and contributing to my stress. The question to ask yourself is, who will I pick up the phone for outside my work hours? The answer to this may be no one, and a commitment to leave your phone on a charger out of sight and out of mind. But if your role isn't structured for that, then it's time for a different if-then statement. If someone calls my work number off hours, I will return their call when my workday begins again. If a VIP calls my work number off hours, I will pick up, quickly assess time urgency, whether it needs to be me that handles this, before scheduling time to work on this during my work hours or delegating to a colleague. You get the idea. With each of these example if-then statements, adjust them to fit your needs, and now you have your boundaries. From here, it's our job to honor the boundaries that we set today. They will be tested, that we know. Other people will likely try to cross them, and all the time. In each of these 12 examples, we decided the actions we will take when they do. The goal here is to be neutral, right? We're just sticking to the facts of our if-then statements. People have free will, and they can do whatever they want to do. But happily, so do we. This is our invitation to exercise our own free will and focus on what we will do, rather than other people's behaviors. So when I say honor the boundary, It means we must follow through, even when it's late or we are tired, or it seems easier to fall back to old habits in the moment, or it feels like a special exception. For my parents in the audience, and if you don't look after children, even you can remember back to when we were kids. If a boundary is set, it gives us an idea of how to be successful within a system. It sets expectations up front so we aren't caught off guard with unexpected consequences. But we know that if we set a house rule for our child, we know that if we don't uphold it and follow through consistently, it becomes worthless. We confuse our kids, and they will continually test boundaries then to see where they are today because they're always moving. The same goes for setting that boundary with your work colleagues. When we are consistent in doing what we say we will do, even if we only say it to ourselves and never out loud to others, our colleagues will notice the consistent behavior. They will learn how to work with us, what to expect, and will adjust accordingly. If we don't honor that boundary consistently, as far as others are concerned, it doesn't exist. Whenever we first set boundaries, know that it may be bumpy. When I reduce screen time with my kids, I know they will have emotional reactions, but I'm willing to feel like the tough parent for their own good. I am okay feeling judged or misunderstood because it's better than feeling regret that they're losing themselves in the online ether and missing their childhood and real-life connection. While this may not always be easy, I know it's the best path for me and my family. Similarly, in our work, people may have strong reactions. We can be willing to feel like the stickler who doesn't follow the crowd or the outlier who takes a firm stance. We are okay potentially disappointing others or feeling judged because it's better than feeling regret or resentment that we aren't working and living aligned with our priorities and values. While this may not always be easy, we know it's the best path for us. Ultimately, boundaries help us plug into our self-confidence enough to prioritize and make decisions. It gives us opportunities to practice having courageous conversations, and it develops our self-discipline to follow through on our commitments to ourselves. When we are leading our days and how we spend our time, our well-being is more intact. Our performance is better. Our business is more successful, and our careers advance farther. It just takes a new habit and doing the uncomfortable and unfamiliar of setting standards in the way of if-then for how we will respond or act in different situations. Download my free boundary setting checklist as part of my leadership playbook for instant access at the first link in the show notes now. Until next time.
Looking for support in applying the principles and strategies in today's episode? Sherry coaches clients one-on-one as their trusted confidant and advisor, helping each client create the work and life they had only dreamed of. To schedule your complimentary career strategy session, go to sherrygregoff.com/apply to book time with her today. It's one simple step that can change everything.